In a world overflowing with distractions, we seek meaning. How do we transform ambition into something deeper, into true fulfillment? I'm Sam Pepin, CEO of Cordoba, and I've spent years helping businesses succeed by connecting their goals to something bigger. On the Meaningful Podcast, we explore not just how to win in business, but how to grow as individuals. Through conversation with thought leaders, innovators, and everyday heroes, we uncover the stories that drive us towards something greater. Whether you're striving for success, seeking purpose, or just looking for the next steps in your journey, this podcast is your guide to navigating the intersection of ambition, growth, and meaning. So please join me and our incredible guests as we redefine what's possible in both business and life. Enjoy. True healing begins from within. When we align the mind, body, and spirits, we unlock our greatest potential for wellness. Welcome to the Meaningful Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Pepin, and today we're diving into 3 transformative themes: harnessing the power of the mind for healing, embracing holistic wellness, and the life-changing impact of purposeful living. Our guest today is George Cordoba, a stage 4 cancer survivor, holistic health coach, and Amazon bestseller author of Beating the Odds. After battling melanoma with brain metastases for over a decade, George took the natural, holistic route to healing and emerged stronger than ever. Now he helps others reclaim their health through the power of mindset, nutrition, and well-being. His story is testament to resilience, self-discovery, and the profound connection between the mind and body. If you enjoyed this discussion, please let the world know with a like, a small review, or even a quick share. Your supports help more people find meaningful content just like this. Let's begin. Mr. George Cordoba, welcome on the Meaningful Podcast. How are you doing?
Very good, Sam, and thank you for inviting me. I'm flattered to be here on a Sunday morning and sharing with you. So thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. Well, it's a pleasure to have you here. And your story of beating the odds is a fantastic one. So we're glad to platform you. To kick us off, please tell us more about Quale Vita.
Yeah, Quale Vita, which it's a 2-word two Latin words, which means quality of life. And I founded Quale Vita back in 2015. After I decided to transition from being an executive in technology. I was a CTO, and but after my experience, I decided to transition into health and wellness, and so Quale Vita was founded with my wife, who was also in the corporate world, but we both, after my experience, decided that we wanted to help people. And Quale Vita is all about helping people to live in wellness and with purpose, which is something that very few people find in their lives. It's crazy. I worked at hospices as a volunteer, and the common denominator was that if they had enough time, they would do what really they were born to do. And it's kind of sad. It's quite sad to see that. And so our mission is that to help people living wellness and with purpose. So that's what Quale Vita is all about. We have obviously, in my case, from my side, I am a holistic health coach, but I became a nutritionist as well. I mean, we offer that service. I'm also a hypnotherapist. I have a mastery in health coaching, transformational coaching, which is about helping people changing beliefs or reframing them, and also obviously very important habits. On my wife's side, and we both are Reiki masters. We also apply Reiki and give workshops. So it's all about health and wellness, Quale Vita. My wife, in her side, she does holistic massage, energy work, and part of her massage, she includes Reiki in it, and she does sacrocranial and cranial, and so our let's say our shop, it's all about health and wellness.
Beautiful. And and I want to take us back to the survival and triumph because you talk at length about obviously you battling stage 4 cancer, it's melanoma, if I say it
Hmm.
correctly, right?
Yeah.
And yet all sorts of brain metastasis and very very hard battle. If you could share a little bit about how you felt at that time and what type of, I suppose, resources you had to help you during that battle to start with, please.
Yes. Um, well, it all happened. I have to share this because it has a lot of, it makes sense to what I'm going to then share. Um, I am half Greek and half Spanish. My family, both of my families migrated to Venezuela. I'm from South America originally. My Greek family basically immigrated to Venezuela, and my dad's family immigrated from Madrid, Spain, to Venezuela. Both families met in Venezuela, and my sister and I were born, and that's where you see the name Georges. But the reason I'm saying this is because on my Greek side of the family, Sam, um, I saw cancer since I was 4 years old, and I started to really fear the disease. I saw my great grandfather pass away, one of his brothers passing away, who also migrated to Venezuela, my grandma's two of her three sisters passing away from cancer, then my mother's cousin, who also their parents migrated from Spain, from Greece, also dying of cancer. Later on, my uncle, my mom's brother, at the age of 55, he passed of cancer. No one survived the disease so far. And then my mother passing of cancer 3 weeks before my diagnosis. So at that point, I had five young kids and a blessing of five kids, two boys, then twins, and then finally our girl who just turned 30 in December. So they're not kids anymore, even though in my heart they are. And the bottom line is that when I looked at my family, my Greek family landscape, I felt like bedoomed. I thought sooner or later this thing is gonna hit me. And if you have read or know a little bit about the secret, what you manifest and you bring in, that's what happened to me when I was diagnosed. I was on my, I think I was on my fourth year as a CTO, managing great projects in South Florida, in Miami, Florida, Royal Caribbean, Celebrity Cruises, Del Monte, a bunch of brick and mortar rider systems. And we were striving. My wife was striving in the medical world, and I was striving as a in technology. That's what I studied. Computer science. By the way, I'm an athlete. I always played tennis since I was young. That came to be very important in my battle. But all of a sudden, I get diagnosed. I was at the pool with the kids, and I was kind of like scratching all the time, and I started bleeding. So I called my wife and I said, "Check out. Was this a dimple or something? What is it?" And she kind of freaked out. She says, "No, this is not good." Sunday, tomorrow I'm gonna call the kids dermatologist, and so that's the whole thing started there. I explain it very well in my best-selling book, "Beating the Odds," and and what I did to survive. So, but at the time, it was a shock, Sam. I like everyone. No one wants to hear that they have cancer, the diagnosis, and but in my case, even more because, as I said, in a way, real quick, because you go through like 100,000 thoughts when you get the news. But one of them was, man, I just I knew this was going to happen to me, not with the family. But right away, and speaking of being a tennis player, um, tennis you either win or lose. There's no tie. So you become a different person. You could even be playing your best friend. who maybe we spend the night in this, you know, at his house or my house, and the next day we would have to play national quarterfinals or something, you know. And then at that point, your best friend is your enemy. You either beat him or he beats you. But that helped me a lot in terms of, you know, making this mental decision that I said, you know what, I'm going to be the first person in my Greek side of the family that would survive this thing. And really, I went on my journey. But in the beginning, though, Sam, I have to say this, and I say this as a hypnotherapist, which is part of what I do to help my clients. Um, the mind has 13 rules. And one of the rules of the mind, which is really strong in the West, is that the mind goes to what is familiar. What is familiar for all of us, no exception so far, is that we go running to an oncologist. There's just no other option in our minds. No, we just go, oh, I need to find an oncologist. And, you know, it's really the mind goes to what is familiar. For us, when you hear cancer, that's one of the first things that come to mind. Where am I going to be treated? There's no other option. And thank God I kept something since I was little, and maybe because I have two sides of my brain, everybody left and right, but I work both. I'm a musician. I play the piano as well, just like Sylvan, and and so I've always trusted my intuition, my gut feeling, which is really, by the way, and this is for you and the audience, that's your best coach. Your intuition is your best coach. But what happens is through the years we start giving away that power. Even our family say, "Oh, don't listen to that. Listen to your teacher. Listen to your uncle. Listen to, you know, to the priest or the pastor. Don't listen to yourself." And then obviously when you get sick, you go running to a doctor, an oncologist, and most people, and I can see this with my clients, I've been doing this 7.5 years, I'll tell you, but most people give all the power to this guy that all he or she knows is how to apply different chemos, how to bring a radiologist to do the radiotherapy, but they're not nutritionists. They're not, you know, massage therapists. They're not psychologists. They know one thing. So what you ask them that is not, you know, oncology, or chemo, you know, chemistry, they don't know. They'll tell you, oh, yeah, eat whatever, Georges, so you don't lose weight, which I was losing a lot of weight. But so this whole thing started. And at the end of the day, I ended up fighting this battle with melanoma, which is the most aggressive and unpredictable cancer there is, even more than pancreas. Yeah, and so by the time that I was diagnosed, I was already stage 3. But and all in all, I fought the disease for 10 years, and I had 10 surgeries on me, including 4 in the brain because I had a metastasized with 8 tumors in my brain. And so I had 4 craniotomies and 2 gamma knives that I don't call but they're also surgical procedures. But so in reality, it was 12. But on year 8, though, before I made the transition from being a CTO to going to coaching, it wasn't on my mind yet. I had my second craniotomy, which was from ear to ear in my front lobe, and they came up with this. Obviously, they said we're going to give you radiation for 6 weeks, and I agreed because, like I said, the mind goes to where familiar. At that point, I'm thinking, okay, no problem. They war they warned me that that might cause other tumors to appear, and that was the case. 7 more appeared in a period of 2 months, and but after that second craniotomy, they gave me, once I recuperated, they gave me this new chemotherapy in the form of oral that penetrated the brain. It was called Temodar, and they gave it to me in capsules. Which, by the way, this is on my. I was hitting my 8th year of surgery, treatment, remission, recurrence, surgery, treatment, remission, recurrence. So I was tired of it. And they gave me this pill, which, by the way, was $1,000 each capsule, a thousand American dollars. And yeah, I've been paying all this stuff for 8 years. We had to tapping into retirement accounts, our kids' college funds. It wasn't fun. There was like financial tsunami, emotional tsunami, name it. And then, needless to say, how it was affecting my CTO position, and so it was just really when in the U.S. we say when it rains, it pours. So and 5 young children, which was really amazing. For me that gave me a lot more anxiety. But on the when I had my this is important to say. This pills, I was supposed to have one capsule each day from Monday to Friday, take a break on the weekend, and then go again Monday to Friday. On my second Monday, my sixth capsule, Sam, I thought I was getting a heart attack. My heart was palpitating. I was all over the place, like if I was on speed or something. I don't know. I never felt that way, and I kind of was scared. My wife was working, the kids were in school. I was at home alone, and I was trying to play the piano. That didn't work because I was just too tight, too anxious. I was like all over. At that point, I said, you know what? This is it. This stuff is not working for me. This stuff is actually killing me. And it just was not working for me, chemotherapy and all this stuff. And so I sat down, tried to take a few deep breaths, and I said, you know what? When my wife shows up, I want to ask her I'm a person of faith. I will ask her to take me to the chapel, and I'm going to tell her that I'm stopping. I'm stopping all conventional treatments. I'm not doing any more chemo or radiotherapy. I'm going to go the holistic health route to heal. And so she gets home. She's in the medical world. My daughters, both of godparents are doctors. He's a surgeon, and facing them and my wife was the toughest. When I said that I was going to quit this stuff, oh, you're crazy, Georgia, you're crazy. But like I told you, I trusted my intuition. I said, look, guys, look what's happening. It's 80 years of this. My kids are growing up, seeing daddy maybe going away like grandma, and so,
Mm.
yeah. I mean, it was a rough thing to manage.
Yeah, and I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. And it's obviously your journey amplifies resilience and kind of like the power of holistic health as well, which we're gonna dive deeper in a moment. One thing that I love, I think it was Oprah saying this, but it's turn your wounds into wisdom. All right, and you
Hmm.
definitely seem to have done such things, especially with your coaching and so on. But for you, when you're looking back at that basically those very very difficult moments, you said basically financial storm, emotional storms, and obviously nobody's doubting you on that. When was that? What could you basically, I suppose, that moment where you were able to took some wisdom off of that and actually perhaps making you a more complete and more and a wiser person because of it. Tell us more about basically that your relationship with that battle now that you're able to successfully end it.
Yeah. Um, there were several things that was happening, but at the time, it was really the moment that I say, I'm stopping this and I'm going to go natural. I'm going to go with God's pharmacy. That's what I said, or Mother Earth's pharmacy. And because of my background with tennis, I learned being in the national junior team. They brought a guy from Yugoslavia. It wasn't broken yet. They didn't have the war. He was an Olympian guy, and he came just to help us to learn how to mental rehearse so we could be tougher in the court, coming back from a place of almost losing the match, or in my case, my dad played Davis Cup, so anytime he showed up, I would play really bad. I mean, I could not concentrate because I wanted to be as good as him, and so I would lose. So I had to. That was my first hurdle there. But what happened though, and here's the point that it kind of mixes faith and also understanding the power of your subconscious mind, the power of your minds all together. And I was playing the national finals for it was the Venezuelan Open. People came from all Latin, South America and a few American folks, and I got to the finals, and I wasn't even seated. I was a senior in college here. I was going to do my last year of tennis here in the U.S. And so I played the first seeded, who was one of my idols, 7 years older than me. I saw him playing Davis Cup. I mean, I was 23, he was 30. Um, Very good player. And it so happened that I was winning. I was really dominating that match. And somehow in the fourth set, he comes back and wins that set, and he asked for a break. He says that he had to go to the locker room and maybe take a shower because he was fainting. And they gave him it's a longer story, but they gave him the chance to do that. So I had to wait. I had to wait like 15 minutes, and he comes back, and he ends up beating me. If you guys understand tennis, 7-5 in the fifth set. I was up 5-4, but I lost. But what happened there is part of my survival. I'll tell you what happened. Our coach, we call him the master, a teacher that taught us tennis. Was my Freddie Winkleman was my opponent. I also learned how to play tennis with this guy, this French guy, Savy, and Francois Savy. And and most of us in Venezuela that were talented, let's say, they were sent, our parents sent them to him. He came to watch us, and for me that was an honor. He came to watch the finals too, and when we finished, we both went to embrace him. But Freddie say hi, and he left. But you know, coach or master, we call him Master Savi. He says, George, you should have won this match. You lost here in your head. You lost it in your mind. And so I said, yeah, I don't know. And I was able to, I said my dad being there. I mean, I just played a great match, and somehow I ended up losing. So here's what happened. I was leaving on a Friday to come back to school here. I went to school here in New Mexico State University with a full scholarship to play tennis, NCAA Division One tennis. And he all of a sudden on Wednesday, my mother says that Francois Savy called me. He invited me for lunch, to go to lunch. And I say, oh my God, what an honor. So I called him. He left his number. And I went to where he was teaching in this amazing hotel, and I had a very good tennis center. So we're having lunch, and he says, look, as I said, man, you're playing really good. You got one more year. I have a gift for you. And in my book, I call it a gift for life. He says, look, here's this book. I want you to read it right before you start your college season. And the book's name is The Power of Your Subconscious Mind, right, by Dr. Murphy, written in 1910, 1911. But wow, how many times have I read that book? I read the book before I started the season because I was here 2 weeks before we started. And I started to put into practice the stuff that he said to do on top of what I learned from this guy, Sustik from Yugoslavia. Wow, it made a huge difference in my tennis. But this is why he said, Georges, it's going to help you with your tennis, but it's also going to help you later in your life. And when I decided, especially on my 8th year, when I decided to go natural, I really got that book again and started to see, read everything that Dr. Murphy was saying and applying them. but now it was not a tennis opponent, it was an advanced cancer, but it worked the same. And here's why. Uh, I told you we have rules of the mind. There's 13. Uh, I told you only one, but the mind does everything. It just makes it happen. Everything you say, you think, or you imagine. So why not saying, imagining stuff that are positive? Okay. Because he doesn't know if you say what you're saying is true or false. It just works with your emotions and the subconscious mind to make it happen. And the way that happens is, imagine a ship. You are the captain, Sam, and I'm in the machinery room. I don't see anything. I have other co-workers, and we just take orders from you. You're the captain. That's the conscious mind telling the subconscious mind, do this. And blindly, the machinery folks do it. They just have this faith on what your command is. And so imagine now, if you understand that, and this is something that is very valuable, is very important for you guys to understand. Healing, my friends, happens from the inside out. It's not from the outside in. It's from the inside out. I talked about the intuition. This subconscious of ours. Many people call it the infinite wisdom. Uh, it's just so powerful. But because we have this rule of the mind, we don't even pay attention to that. We just go to the doctor. And since I've been doing this for 7.5 years, only 3 of my clients have made the same decision I did right off the bat. The other ones, they still want to continue with their traditional stuff, but they work with me. And within 7-8 weeks, they start. This is a common. Doctors say, man, you're improving very, very fast. So we're going to lower your chemo, and so they get very excited and they want to continue. And so, but going back to your question, what that was for me, what happened is that when I made that decision to go natural, which, by the way, remember I said I'll be the first person in my family that would survive this. And so I always kept saying, this can't be, man. I'm blessed with 5 kids. We're very successful in our careers. I take them camping. They play tennis, soccer, everything. And then we go to church and this. And this can happen. This doesn't make sense. I always kept saying this because the mind kind of like, but what 2 things happened to me, and there's a lot of stuff in my giveaway that I love. You guys are gonna love this stuff, but I ask you to put it into action. Listen to this stuff that I'm sending, some stuff that is very powerful. And there's an ebook that I wrote after my experience with a naturopath. What happened is this, and this really brings all your question together, and you see where I am now and why I decided to also take a leap of faith and stop my CTO career and transition from being like 0, no branding, nothing. Just like this guy starting at the age of 57, I did that. So everybody thought, man, this guy got crazy with all the hammers and in the brain.
Right. No, absolutely. And Buddha obviously has one of my favorite quote of all time, which is, what you think you become, what you feel you attract, what you imagine you create. I think that sums up very well what you believe the power of the mind is. And I want to, talking about power, I truly want to have you speak more about some of what you attribute your success and your battle too, because it seems like either of this basically one way of doing things, which we see in basically the Western world. You go to the oncologist and they tell you to basically take these pills. You take them. You don't ask any questions. He had a very holistic type of process. I was able to see, some functional nutritions, Reiki that you talk a lot about, hypnotherapy, which seems to be the backbone of your coaching practice. Tell me more about why going holistic was so important and how you put these pieces together so the outcome is optimized.
Yes. Great question, by the way. Yeah, I was going to say that when I went to this chapel with my wife and I told her what I was going to do, her face was, "Oh, you're not going to do that." But, I said, let's go to the chapel. I went, and this is part of your answer. I went to this chapel within the church that we were going, and with her, and I went to the front pew and actually almost to the altar and kneel and started crying. I was tired. It was my 8th year on this stuff, and I just say, look, this stuff is not working for me, Lord. I mean, if you have a chance, I mean, I surrender. It's up to you. And I said, I mean, if it's possible, give me a chance to see my kids graduating from high school, my daughter, who was 7 years old, to see her having her first communion, the important stuff, becoming a better father. I mean, I was already not in a great position financially because it's 80 years in here in the States. It's just, you get sick and you probably, depending on the disease like mine, you could go broke, I mean, and so I made that decision. And the first thing I did was go into my oncologist and I told him, this doesn't happen with all oncologists. I can tell you this because of my clients. But I said, I told him, look, I decided to stop. And he says, are you sure, Georges? And I said, yes, doctor, I'm sure. He asked again. I said, oh, yes, doctor, I'm sure, but I would appreciate if you continue to do follow-ups on me. And he agreed. He says, well, that's fine. And if what you're doing is not going to work, maybe something new came up, approved by, quote unquote, the FDA. So I went on my journey, my new journey, and my best friend's and doubles partner, his wife, who was in holistic health since she was 18 years old, she said, hey, George, I heard the news. She was the only one that was happy about my decision. He said, look, I want you to go to see this guy in Palm Beach. He's a naturopath that helped my sister get rid of hepatitis. And so I said, yeah. And here's part of your answer. I open myself to receive. Most of us do not know how to receive. Many people ask and they don't receive because where in their subconscious mind, they don't feel worth receiving. So I because what happened, I studied everything. And, because I mean, now I'm alone. How am I going to beat this guy, which was cancer? And so I went to see this guy, and this is worth paying attention. This guy who passed away 2 years ago, he sees me, and I say, oh, you come from Charlene? Yes. Great. So you doing this stuff? I sent him an intake form before I went there. So he basically says, the first thing we're going to do is a scan, a non-invasive scan. It was not approved by the FDA. He brought it from Sweden or Germany, I don't know, but it was almost like biofeedback. He put wires in my hands, in my head, in my heart, my feet, and started to do the scan, and I could see myself, my inside on a screen. And Sam, it looked like the 4th of July in the United States. It looked like I had fireworks all over my body and lit up. And he says, George, all this stuff is acidic. That is acid. And that obviously you've been in chemo for 8 years. And yeah, it's killing the bad cells, but look where you are. It comes back, right? So he explained to me, he says, look, the secret to health is having a balanced pH. Disease cannot grow in a balanced pH body. And have it like you, and we're gonna manage to balance your pH, you're gonna eliminate the environment that these cells strive to grow and duplicate. Usually it's gonna go away because they don't have a place to grow, to thrive. And so he explained it to me this way. He says, imagine a pool, which we had. If you put too much chlorine on it, very dangerous to go in there. It'll affect your eyes, your skin. If you swallow it, probably even some of your. So it's very dangerous to be in an acidic environment. On the other hand, if you don't put enough chlorine, the water becomes green, which is also dangerous. There's a different bacteria that can hurt your red blood cells. So the trick is to manage to have a balanced pH, so you can swim in that water. Okay, that was really, man, it was like preaching to the choir, and it really fortified my decision to go natural. So I did a 21-day detox with him. We did a second scan, and it was like 9 a day. And needless to say, I was feeling the best in 8 years. I mean, wow, because all this stuff was clearing my body. We did a second one of 21 days, and then I continued to do some of the juicing and stuff for about 6 more months, and being, he said, he did say this. I wasn't a nutritionist yet, but have some protein. You're too thin. Have your eggs. You need to have some animal protein, and, which you'll see in my ebook that is part of the giveaway. I explain all the myths, and as a nutritionist, I don't believe in extremes. I don't believe in keto or only or paleo or veganism. It's really just a balanced pH plate, which is what I teach my clients. If you're going to have red meat, make sure that you have with alkaline foods like salad, asparagus, watercress. And so now you have the alkaline food, offsetting the acidity of the meat. And that's really what it's all about. And so here are two things, and this is part of the answer. I became, I mean, Google was pretty good already. This was already 2000. When did it was like 2009. And so I did all kinds. Yeah, I took ownership on my disease. And so somebody gave me a book about emotional intelligence, which actually talked about forgiveness. And two things I need to share with you and your audience. All chronic disease, including cancer, no exception. I did a talk in Toronto, Ontario, this back September of this year, 24, and I met a holistic MD from Houston who was also a speaker. He got sick with cancer, and was doing the same thing, chemo, whatever. 3 years into it, he thought he was not going, was going nowhere. So he started exploring alternatives, and now he calls himself a holistic MD. He uses a lot of that. He's not an oncologist, but he uses all that advice with his patients. So all disease, all chronic disease start in acidic bodies. Okay, so we need to really make sure that we balance our pH, and understand what makes our bodies acidic, because it's not only what you eat. But the other thing is that I found out is that also all disease are emotional. And here's the deal. You will continue to have recurrences until you find out the root cause of what got you sick. And it's usually emotional. That's why I became a hypnotherapist, and I started to even get more training on the subconscious mind. Healing happens from the inside out. That's what happened to me. So here's what I do. And this is what I'm saying that I do now today with my clients is what I did for me. I worked on my holistic being. We're not just a body. We have an emotional body, we have a mental body, and we have a spiritual body, which is not necessarily religion. You could be religious and not spiritual, or spiritual and not religious, or both, like me. So, and I that's what I do on my protocol. I work the four legs of the table, I call it. One of the legs is your physical self, the other one is your emotional self, the third leg is your mental, and the fourth is your spiritual. If one of those is missing, the table can't stand. And what happens with disease is that in many cases, there are two missing: the spiritual and emotional, or the mental and emotional, and then obviously our lifestyle, because cancer is not hereditary, it's lifestyle. What we inherit is our ways. So, yeah. And so here's another thing. And this is, you say, what made me, uh, um, be here today? How did I transform that situation back to health? And it was really starting, and it was the word faith. And what does faith mean? Faith means the certainty of what you want. That's really what faith means. It's the certainty of what you want, because you know that there is something much bigger than you, that if you take action, things will happen. I mean, the whole universe started conspiring, right? I got so many angels, I say in my book, in the form of human, but I had to open my heart. And that's another thing, so holistically speaking, I had to learn how to receive, how to give, because serving others, even when you're sick, it's also healing. We are designed to help others, and we are so busy with our lives that we just don't do it. Maybe we write a check at church, or we do a donation in some org, but what's important is that you experience helping somebody else, even if it's opening the door in a gas station for an elderly person. That will make you feel good. Or, give a compliment to the cashier in a grocery store, because the person in front of you is just giving her hell, and then you see her and you say, "Hey, Mary, wow, I'm impressed. You did so good with this lady." By just doing that, you're gonna feel so fulfilled, and you might make that girl's week, because there's people that in the world that acknowledge your good deeds. So at the end of the day, it was that faith, and also my mental rehearsing. And then I did something that, when I went to that chapel, I surrendered. I said, you know what? I it was my fault. I got sick because of me, nothing else. So I need to now work on go back to health. And and at that point, with somehow, with this emotional intelligence book that I received like 2 or 3 days after that surrendering, they talked about forgiveness. And Sam, recurrences will occur until you find, like I said, the root cause. And for me, it was emotional. And then now that I find out that all diseases are emotional, so what I did is I humbled myself, and I reached to those who had hurt me through my life when I was a teenager, when I was even younger. And guess what? None of them even remember. So they say. But I still say, well, anyway, I forgive you. And you know why? They did not remember. And I was holding that poison for years, man. And that produces acidity, that produces cortisol, and that produces serotonin. So when you remember a song or something, or you think about that, you're producing that. You're creating acidity in your body. But another way that you create acidity in your body is by eating too fast. Here's a tip, a nutritional and digestion tip. 25% of what you eat, 25 of your digestion and nutrition is what you eat. 75% is who you are when you're eating. Are you stressed out when you're eating? You're only eating in 10 minutes because you're in a hurry. You know, this is what happens. I don't want to get too technical, but we have several branches of our nervous system. Imagine you having right there in Montreal somewhere, you're just having a lunch in a park or something, and then you see this pit bull coming towards you to attack you. You know that it's coming to attack you. So you have two choices. You fight that creature or you just fly, you get out of there. So you decide to go out of there. And what your body does naturally is creates cortisol and adrenaline. It goes all over your body, your muscles, your bones, so you can just, run for your life. Now the question is, what happened to the digestion that you were eating? That stuff is shut down. That's it. It's frozen. No digestion. That's it. So the stomach, your gut decides to bring all that stuff into fat, which becomes acidic later. I mean, it's gone. But here's the trick: when you are going to eat, your sympathetic nervous system, that branch, which is the fight or flight, doesn't know if it was a bear or it was a pit bull, or if you just had an argument with somebody on the street, or you were stressed out for traffic and you're just coming and you want to eat in 5 minutes because you have to do an errand. It doesn't know. It just knows that you're stressed out. So it does the same thing for your digestion, and nutrition. Now, there's another thing that happens. I did the state of health for the U.S. and Canada for that talk in Toronto a few months ago. And we're very similar. However, you guys have a smaller population. But here, I'm going to just talk about the U.S. The average American, Sam, chews only 6 times before they swallow. Okay, when reality we should be chewing between 20 and 32 times, depending on what we put in our mouth. The reason why is because digestion starts in your mouth. What we need to do is chew so the saliva enzymes process the food before we swallow it to the stomach. We have a beautiful design in our digestive tract, but we have to honor it. So without knowing, we chew 6 times to swallow this bomb in the stomach that has no way to know what to do. So what it does is, I'm going to have to send this to fat. And guess what happened? Your nutrition did not go well. You didn't get the nutrients that you need into your system. So guess what happens? Half hour later, you're hungry again. And then you go, maybe you take another snack, but you eat it so fast that, the stomach again, you send a bomb, again, it goes to fat. And all that with time becomes acidic. So there's many ways your body becomes acidic. You can make having your best, they say pH plate, which, by the way, I'm sending a table that shows which foods are acidic and which foods are alkaline, so you can combine them when you eat. There's many other things in there that you're gonna love. I have two meditations, forgiveness meditation, one for men, one for women. Those are very important. The moment that I did that, I forgave people. Then I asked for forgiveness. I wasn't a saint as a kid in college. And so I asked for forgiveness. They didn't remember either. One of them did. And I just, I'm very sorry. And then the hardest one, forgiving myself. So when I worked on those 3 things, you have to humble yourself to do this. But I had no more recurrences, even though I had already gone, basically natural for already a few years. It did come. The melanoma came back twice again. My last 2 surgeries were in my gluteus muscle, but I did not get any chemo or radio. I just said, no, I don't want that. And so all this stuff, all this holistic being, which I studied and put it into action. We're starting the year. Everybody has a New Year resolution every year. I have this intention, and and then in March, it pretty much only 2% are still, going. The reason for that is because, an intention without action becomes an illusion, and then you basically, and so I hope that answered your question, but it was all this time that that made me like a stronger person, and really, I was giving a small workshop to this cancer community. What is it called? Conquer Cancer Community, and I was explaining to them that everybody is different, but we do have one thing in common, and that is our subconscious mind and our mind. I mean, everybody is different in terms, let's say, of chemo and stuff. But if you do sit, because we don't give time to ourselves, but if you really you go in a place, let's say you have cancer, and you go somewhere and you by yourself and just relax, and in a way don't even say anything, you will get some messages about other alternatives, and about being honest to yourself and see what this medicine that they're giving you is doing for you. So I have a colleague. There's 8 million survivors between Canada and the US that went natural. So it's not just me. And one of I've met several, and they're in the coaching business. They're helping people, and this doctor too. There's a couple. There's not only him. I'm not some good with the last names, but there's two guys from the Midwest as well, and there's a guy from Canada that I have his book. But anyway, we're not gonna lose time on that. But the whole thing is, one of these guys gave me a shared a questionnaire to ask your oncologist when you're gonna go and meet this person the first time. Remember, guys, you are hiring this person. Somehow, somebody, depending on how your health system is paying this guy or this lady. So if you already start with that thought, I'm gonna hire you to help me heal. You're not the healer, but sometimes people even believe that. But anyway, and then you ask questions. This thing has 13 questions, 12 or 13 questions. One of them is, hey, doctor, the medicine that you're going to give me, do you have anybody that I can talk to that has been 5 years in remission? How about 10 years in remission? Is it true, doctor, that you get your chemo at a wholesale price and then you mark it up to the insurance company or to your patient? You have to be bold, but you are interviewing this guy or this lady. So see what they're saying. You know how many people in 7.5 years as a coach, have done that? Only one. I didn't do it because I didn't know that. But knowing it, I always provide that in my welcome package. And they just feel kind of like scared. They're intimidated. It shouldn't be that way.
Right. And there's no doubt that obviously forgiveness, gratitude, and
Yeah.
abundance are all so important for not only health, but all spheres of life. And in talking about all spheres of life, one thing that struck me by you, George, is just how purpose driven you are. And obviously you had this incredibly difficult, obviously journey with cancer and this battle that you finally won. So first of all, congratulations on that, and your beautiful children's also. But I'm thinking if you can add some words of wisdom for those that may be in contemplation, or I suppose in their journey of finding their purpose in life, and trying to get clear on what they're trying to leave behind, what they're trying to basically cultivate for themselves and others. Do you have any words of wisdom or insight when it comes to finding that purpose within yourself?
Yes, absolutely. Great questions. Um, you know, um, I must say that, and I share this in my book, I loved technology. I started as a programmer. I kept growing. Then I worked with IBM, Accenture, and then they got me into management. And I really love to help companies become more productive through software and, improving their bottom line and all that stuff. I loved it. But I wasn't born for that. I didn't know that, but I wasn't born for that. And when I got sick and this 10-year battle and surviving it, for me now, when I look back, I see it as a blessing because God gave me the chance to sing the song I was born to sing. That's my purpose, which is helping people. And really, if you look at it, and you guys ask yourself, if I won the lottery, what would you do? You probably do what you love doing, and that's your purpose. We are born with some talents that we need to refine, but if it is something that you're really good at, and if you work on something related to what you are good at, it doesn't matter if you make, you know, $10 or $10,000, because you are enough. You feel content. You're actually developing and using your purpose to, you know, to make this planet a better place. So it is basically, and I talked to this, this is a great question you asked. When I'm, most of my clients obviously are folks that they've been uh, fighting cancer. There's others that want to work with me to prevent it because their brother got it and this and that, or we all have that experience, indirectly or directly. We've been hitting, by cancer. But the bottom line is that uh, I tell them, let's say, okay, when you heal, you're working on the roadmap to heal, because we create a roadmap. Let's say you finished, and knowing maybe not in 3 months, but in 6 months, you're cancer free. Are you going to be the same person, or what are you doing? So in through my progress, we do some meditations and visualizations to basically find really what is it that they were born for, because we are, and it's not really like chasing that. You see people, oh, I still haven't found it. It doesn't work that way either. Just surrender and look around and give some time for yourself to see what are these important things. And then there's another thing that is really important here. Have faith. Be certain that you'll find it, because fear comes into, the comfort zone. The ego doesn't want you to get hurt. And so it's part of that is that fear. Just be certain of what you're going to find, and you'll find it. It's a universal law. And there's not much thinking. It's more in the heart.
Beautiful. Yes, it definitely is. And faith, however it comes to you, you were talking about spirituality, religions, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe combining both. Listen,
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, what makes you feel the best probably is the best route for you. But there's incredible. And then on the inside, but also justification for why that is so important, and why we ought, I'll go as far as saying we ought to believe not only in ourselves, but the world, to be able to be a place in which we can cultivate such purpose. I want to let you a chance to talk a little bit more into your book. Obviously, Beating the Odds, which is an Amazon bestseller. I was able to preview it, which is quite interesting. I got such great insights from kind of like the way you in a way you had chronics. You find a way to, through chronics, basically journal your holistic journey to defeating cancer, which is quite beautiful, and I love the way you write it, truly. So I want to congratulate on that as well. But truly, for me specifically, and you're an author, so feel free to tell me how you feel about it. But your story, which we all have one, is can be the key that can unlock somebody else's prison, right? It is interesting thing where through a book that I can read, I can put myself in this person's basically lives through empathy, and basically better my life through somebody else, basically wisdom. Was that the objective with the book? Tell me more about just how important it was to not only live this journey, but put it into a book that others can cherish.
Yes. Wow. And you asking some great questions, Sam. I love it. Yeah. I still remember I was still sick, but I made the decision to go natural. And at that moment as well, I say, I'm going to write a book about my surviving experience. I was still, with evidence of cancer in me, but So I was in this tiny library. I love tiny libraries. And we were on vacationing in Sanibel Island in the west coast of Florida, about 3 hours from Miami. And I go in and I see this beautiful bookmark, and which I still have. This is way back, maybe 2004, and then I just got this nice little personal growth book, very short. It was Who Will Cry When You Die, and yeah, by Robin Sharma, a fellow Canadian, by the way, of yours. And he's my mentor. I haven't met him in person, but I got all his books. He's about 4 years younger than me, but he's amazing. He's really a person with a purpose, and he was a lawyer before. So sometimes, by the way, something bad has to happen before you find your purpose. I don't want for my clients or your audience to wait for that. But what was I saying on the book? So I said I'm going to write a book, and in that bookmark I put in the back, if only one person gets what I'm writing and heals, I I just said that I'll be just so happy, and that was my purpose. And then I wrote a little mission about this book, and it had to do with helping people, not only folks that are ill, but the caregiver, because the caregiver goes through the disease as well, man, and I see it now left and right all the time. So and so I went ahead and I started writing the book, and I wrote the whole book in the shores of Miami Beach, South Beach, Florida. I would go there like around 5 in the morning and waited for the sunrise, and I would just then do a little bit of meditation, being thankful for my health, which, by the way, it's another way to tell the mind that you're healthy. You're not going to say tomorrow, because the mind doesn't know tomorrow or yesterday. It's in the present moment. Thank you, God, for my health. And I would embrace the sun. I would remember Gandhi's words of the moment that he saw a full moon or a sunset or a sunrise. He would really understand the grandness of the universe, of God. And so I would do that. It was more spiritual, and I would just journal, write. Sometimes in Spanish, which is my first language, or English, that whatever song I was hearing, I would be inspired for it. I mean, I had my headphones and stuff. And so that's how I started to do the book. By the end, I even almost had half the chapters in Spanish, half in English. So I had to work with two different editors. Um, but this is what I do today. I have not, this is unbelievable. Even for me, I have not promoted the book since I wrote it, and it's doing so well, both in English and Spanish. I launched it on the first one in English. I launched it in January 26th of 2021, and it became a bestseller on day one. Then in April, St. George's Day, I launched it in Spanish, and it did become bestseller on the first day, almost at midnight. It almost didn't make it, but I got the email from Amazon congratulating me in my genre, in health and wellness and stuff. And it is so powerful to know that it's more like, okay, you read it and you tell somebody you got to read this book. But guess what I do? I have to say this stuff because I'm also called to leave a legacy. I know it. And so when I sign somebody new, my wife and I send them a care package, a welcome package. It's got some things that my wife makes, like oils and some bracelets with volcanic stuff, so you could put the essential oils. And I send on top of everything a note and two books. One, they say you become my client. One is dedicated to Sam Pippin, and the other one is dedicated by you to somebody that you may find that might want to read the book because it's a caregiver or somebody going through the. And I signed it, but I say, hey, this book is being given to you by Sam. I hope you enjoy it, this and that. It serves you well. God bless you. I sign it. And then when you give it to them, you can sign it too because it says it is from you. As that has worked, is paying it forward. And that's part of faith. That's understanding that, you know, somehow people are going to get this message. I'm not worried about the money, even though it's been giving some good royalties, but and now by March, I'm going to launch my second book, which is titled "Stop and Smell the Roses," and you'll see about that. Yeah, and then there's a third one that already put the outline, which is the healing power of forgiveness. And so, yeah, the books. If you, I mean, there's different types. Fiction, nonfiction, memoirs, like you said, some chronicles. I what I do hear from folks that read the book is that they feel all the. By the way, I just launched that in audio, and I have it for $5. I left it at that particular promotion when I launched it. I haven't changed it. It's easier to listen to a book today than read it, but yeah, but really, it was something to help people to them understand that there is hope first of all, and that there's so many things in there that they're so simple and so common sense, but we don't do it. And one of them, for example, I wrote another chapter there. It's called the healing power of service, and it is amazing. I've done some work to help others as a volunteer and that stuff that I created with the American Cancer Society and stuff. And you find out that when you help somebody, this particular thing was driving folks. It was called Road to Recovery. Barely Canada has its version, but it was volunteers would take cancer patients to their treatments on the way to work, and maybe another volunteer will pick the person up on the way back home. And I have to say this, guys, when you help somebody without any agenda, like when you give into somebody with any agenda, you wonder if the person that was helped is you. It's just say, wait a minute, who was helped here? And I do have a few chapters about that. But in the service chapter, I really got this from a book called Back to the Basics by this guy that he has dedicated his life to help the people living on the streets in Bogota, the capital. Yeah. He's not clergy. He's a layperson. And in his book, he says, if you wanna feel the love of God, you must descend to the heart of those whom you help. And that really, I would say, oh, now I understand why I took D to their thing and we have a conversation, and then I'm going home and I'm thinking, my goodness, this, I feel like I'm healed. I was doing this while I was sick, Sam. I was still going. If I'm not, it was before I stopped the treatments, I still would go. And if I knew that I was feeling okay, I would go. And obviously, you cannot give them medical advice, but they will ask me. I said, no, I'm still going through the disease as well. And they would just look at me like, man, this guy, wow, are you a priest? Are you a religious? No, I'm just somebody that wants to help. So yeah.
Right. Just like Mark Twain was saying, giving might just be the most selfish thing you can do. Mr. George Cordoba, it was such a pleasure to have you on. You're truly a beautiful soul, and we can see that resonates and transcend even my screen as I'm talking to you. So thank you so much for your wisdom and insights. I would love if you can share some last words of wisdom with our audience.
Yeah. Um, well, I'll repeat this two things I'm going to say. One is healing happens from the inside out. If you manifest that and repeat it, if you're sick or if you want to prevent disease, healing happens from the inside out. We create our problems. And I want to leave you with a quote that I have on my signature when I send emails, and it is by Robin Sharma, but it says, "No one will believe in you until you believe in you."
Thank you for spending your time with us today on the Meaningful Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review or share it with someone who could benefit from it. And always remember, your story matters. Make it meaningful. We hope to see you next time.